All right, it's Tuesday, August 15th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, second day of the week. And today we end up with a two down red bar. We took out the low of the previous day. We held below the midpoint of the previous day, and we closed, we came down, took out that low, reached our target here, and closed red on the day. And this is a good example of why with day trading, each day is its own entity, and you have to let price open and see what's developing. After yesterday's big green day to the upside, you kind of expected a little follow through to the upside, but we also knew that this was going to be kind of an interesting area, this selling tail here, the midpoint of that also coincided kind of, if we look at the weekly chart, as we were coming up yesterday, we were right near the midpoint of the prior week. So the question, and we were as of yesterday, we were kind of inside of the previous week. So there was no real actionable, reversal to the upside. It could have continued up and certainly maybe formed a two up bar, but in this case we just kind of held the midpoint of that week, of last week, and we started lower today. So it was very clear what to do right out of the start. If you look at the 15-minute chart, we had the pre-market range kind of between the blue lines here. First bar opened, went down. You had the follow through on bar two, so there's your sell signal. Took out the pre-market lows, got a two down day. That set the tone, down on the daily chart to kind of reach our target right here of the low on Friday. And then, you had one little orderly pullback, a red bar, and eventually you took out the low of the day. So it was really one move down, kind of the secondary move down, took out the low of the day, and that's it. So there was nothing, it was very clear in terms of structure today what was going on, and it's not surprising given that we couldn't follow through on this day and we started below the midpoint today, that and started red, that then we were resuming the downtrend, and the downtrend essentially is so far, is on the monthly chart. We talked about how we're red on the monthly chart, so the continuity is a little bit down in August. We kind of know that. We're waiting for that weekly chart to reverse up before possibly attacking the open to turn it green. We don't know if we're going to get a two down month yet, so we're still inside of the previous month. That means at any moment, you can get a weekly reversal back to the upside, and we'll have to see what happens with this month. Do we go two down, or do we close inside, or do you get some major reversal that turns this green, and we're about halfway through the month? So now you have a good reference point on the daily weekly chart. We have the open of the week right here. As long as we kind of stay below there, we stay red, and we kind of continue down to some targets. I'll show you that in a minute on the daily chart. If we can kind of reverse at some point and get above the weekly open with Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to go, then we can start thinking green and maybe some kind of reversal, but price action is going to have to lead the way. So on the daily chart, red, you kind of expect lower, and you can see here after kind of and again, I've always talked about when it was heading up, these gaps would eventually fill in. We've done that now. There's kind of a fair value gap between the high of this bar and the low of this bar, so we can still get down to the kind of the 440 area on a little bit of follow through. So keep the bias to the downside. We will, at this point, the only way you get weekly any kind of reversal now is to get above the midpoint of this bar in some way. Either we start up tomorrow with choppiness, where we went up on one day, down the other day, up today, next day, or maybe we start down, take out these lows, and then come back up through the midpoint of that bar. Until then, we're biased to the downside as the week goes on. We have a good reference point, the open of the week. As long as we stay below there, we stay biased, and we look for signals. Maybe we open right out of the gates and head lower. Maybe we kind of stay below the open of the week and maybe take out some liquidity on the upside before reversing lower. Those are kind of the two scenarios going forward. But for today, again, very clear. Sell right out of the gates, secondary sell, took out the low of the day. Those are the two things I look for. And, good trading today to the short side after, what maybe was a surprising gap down. But given that the continuity was still down on the weekly chart, we weren't above the previous week's midpoint, and we're down red on the monthly chart. That's sort of the continuity. So when you saw that gap down, that was a sign that we're, continuing with this pullback that started a few weeks ago, and we'll just see how much lower it wants to go.